Hi, I'm Emily, and I have a guilty pleasure. I love hip-hop. This music allows me to completely detach from everyday life, to forget about my worries, helps me dream, and makes me feel fierce and empowered. I also love rap, and admire artists who can express themselves in poetic, rough, and yet crystal clear ways. However, I have a dilemma, because I'm also a feminist. And this is further complicated by the fact that I'm not American and I'm white. And at some point, I obviously became aware that I don't like many of the lyrics I listen to, much as sexist, homophobic, sometimes anti-Semitic, ableist, misogynistic, and violence glorifying. So I started to question whether there really is something to feel guilty about. Is there any way for me as a feminist to justify my passion? Can I do so by acknowledging that more female rappers are appearing? Not quite, because sometimes they reiterate the misogynist rap stereotypes. But I'm moving ahead. Let me take you through some of the thoughts I have on this topic. I want to touch on two problematic issues with hip-hop: parties and materialism, and sex, sexism, and women. I'm guilty of enjoying songs about going to a club, getting drunk, and having a good time. Such hedonistic songs help us relax, yet many seem very superficial and not relatable at all. Most people can't afford to party regularly, nor can they afford what is talked about in these songs and displayed in music videos, such as big cars, watches, diamonds, or expensive clothing. In fact, some rappers replicate a harmful societal concept they experienced before achieving fame. Nonetheless, we have to keep in mind where much of hip-hop comes from. It comes from a place of resilience in the face of generations of oppression and poverty in Black community in the US. And dealing with these circumstances can manifest as alcoholism, violence, and unruly consumerism. While these songs allow me to detach from my reality, they reflect the lived experiences of these artists and the immense pain caused by racism, classism, and white supremacy. Also, I'm guilty of enjoying songs about sex. Sex that is rarely about pleasure, intimacy, or love. Instead, it becomes a vehicle of power and objectifies women. Derogatory gender terms like bitch or hoe are used to an almost inflationary extent. But do you know what is also problematic? Many female rappers reproduce these images. Think of Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, and Megan Thee Stallion rap about sex, which may be empowering and reclaiming women's sexuality, but they still do not center on, well, orgasms, for example. Instead, these texts reinforce the male gaze, because ultimately, the sex that primarily heterosexual women rap about benefits men. Ironically, some female rappers even neglect the promiscuity they express in their songs. However, sex has always been a way for women across all social groups and classes to gain access to wealth and protection in a society that reduces them to their physical appearance. What we need to address in the first place is how feminine self-esteem is conditioned by our society. Why do we need to objectify ourselves? So, is there any way for me to redeem my guilt, to re-establish my feminist reputation? Does it make sense to cancel hip-hop? Of course not. There are so many ways to critically engage with hip-hop from a feminist perspective. This also requires us to interrogate the social context. Out of all the isms, feminism is the most broad, engaging, and fluctuating, and thus it must leave its academic ivory tower to become a practical tool for all women and minority groups. The feminist aspect of hip-hop means it provides a safe space for communities affected by discrimination. It provides a platform of expression and one for healing. It informs the consumers of rap about these circumstances. Above all, female rap is a powerful tool for women to empower themselves and each other and to claim an industry that is still male-dominated. And hip-hop is already becoming more diverse. There are many newcomers who are open about their queerness. Male artists are expressing their vulnerability, thereby combating images of toxic masculinity. And many denounce the injustices in the industry, including sexual harassment and the rigid structures of powerful big labels. I don't need to redeem my guilty pleasure. I embrace my love for hip-hop as much as my commitment to the feminist cause. There are so many more issues related to this topic that I couldn't touch upon, but that also need to be talked about, such as cultural appropriation. It's a continuous process that allows me a great deal of personal growth, and I'm proud to critically reflect on my consumer choices and passions. In fact, guilty pleasures, whether hip-hop, porn, or avocados, need to be normalized, not tabooed. So tell me, what's your guilty pleasure?